Hello everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice. I forgot to bring the GoPro today, so bear with the shaky video quality. Luckily this phone has software that eliminates the shakiness. But anyway, I just wanted to talk some more about the developments with the whole coronavirus thing and other just developments. It's very interesting. I'm very impressed with the quality of content and just the resounding response of the internet in regards to the whole vaccine push by Bill Gates. And, you know, this is really what it's going to come down to, is people's view of this vaccine that is, you know, doesn't even exist yet for coronavirus. And in my reading, this coronavirus vaccine, whenever it comes, whatever is in it, this is going to be like the the substance of the Antichrist. This is really going to be the single action that really defines the division, the mitosis of worlds, and whether or not a person goes forward into sixth world or goes back into the prison planet of fifth world. And the reason that it's really going, it's not even that, you know, I don't know what's in the vaccine. It doesn't exist yet. But the point is that it symbolizes a blind, unquestioning faith in the medical cartel, which, you know, as I've been saying for far more than a year at this point, that the medical cartel is the final bastion of the cabal. They've lost control of the military. They've lost control of, you know, oil to a large degree. They've lost control of the opium market in a large way as a result of the developments geopolitically with Afghanistan and Trump and all that. At least it appears to. But there's one aspect of society that not only is still infested with absolutely garbage people who are now being hailed as heroes. I mean, there are heroes out there, I suppose, and mainly I would consider more EMTs heroes than doctors per se, because they actually have to respond to, you know, extreme situations. It requires, in my opinion, more courage than even, you know, an ER doctor. But, you know, I don't want to, you know, shit on all the doctors, but I have seen so much pathetic behavior from doctors and so little courageous behavior. And the ones that are courageous, that are actually doing fulfilling their Hippocratic oath and doing everything in their power to protect their patients, these ones, as soon as they go against the doctrine from the church, from the American Medical Association and the World Health Organization and the CDC, all of these are the new church, right? These are the new priests in white robes, lab coats. And their edicts are taken with greater solemnity and gravity than the edicts from the bishops and priests of Rome back in the day. And the thing is, at this point, now that the data is coming out and we can see the true range of the mortality rate for COVID-19, the coronavirus, is that the severe adverse event rate for even the vaccines that are already on the market is significantly greater than the mortality rate for COVID-19. So as it stands, even with the supposed safe and effective vaccines that are already on the market that are neither safe nor effective, they basically already at this point, even if we were at that level of standardization and development, and, you know, they'd have chance to do a fraudulent, you know, observational study showing that it's no more harmful than any of the other vaccines, assuming we already had that, even that level, that standard of product, medical product, is already more dangerous than the coronavirus itself. And, you know, it's a stupid comparison again, like whether it's measles or pertussis or coronavirus, it's like, oh, they'll try and keep you in fear, right? And the videos about what it does to the lungs and whatnot, like, it's like, you know, it's like fear porn, right? It's like people who watch just disgusting things on the internet, right? And watch horror movies and just love to revel in those disgusting, like, revulsion type emotions. You know, I've never been one of those people. I don't like horror movies. I don't like watching blood and gore. I mean, I'll watch violence, but I'm not watching it to see people's heads get chopped off. I'm watching it to see the development of power and the consequences, because that's entertaining to me. Watching The Last Kingdom now, which was recommended to me, it's like Game of Thrones without the magic and far more historical, you know, about the invasion of the the English invasion of England, invasion of the British Isles of the Danes, and the interplay between the pagan and Christian church. And it's very fascinating, and in truth, it does play into this, and because the mentality that's been cultivated of people that just blindly accept the edicts, right? This is something that didn't just spring up overnight. It absolutely was cultivated over centuries. And the whole centralization of power and authority in the Church of Rome was absolutely crucial and part of that. And the burning of witches, right? The casting out of pagans, right? And, in parts of the British Isles, the pagan religion, so to speak, kept on going, but under Christian auspices. And even Christmas itself, basically has nothing to do with the birth of Jesus. It's the Saturnalia. It's, basically an astrological holiday that was then appropriated to essentially the Christian religion. And there's a number of other holidays that are the same. But, the church was instrumental in removing people from their connection with nature and isolating them in this box, right? And when you're disconnected from nature, you are disconnected from your sense of connection and power, and, your true life force is deprived from you. And it is only in that condition that people can be really psychologically controlled. And that's why it's interesting to see in this show the interplay between the pagans and the Christians. Because the pagans basically, are just, and again, it's a TV show, but the point is valid that these pagans who are worshiping the old gods, Odin and whatnot, are still connected with the land and, have a lot more life force in them than these Englishmen who are Christian, but spend every single waking second talking about how they can please the external God and basically submit themselves and sacrifice and, self-penance and whatnot. And it's just, it's again, you have to externalize the power of God in this universe in order to take people and basically put them in that box. Because otherwise, it's not to say that I am God, but I believe that this universe is fractal. And so I believe there's consciousness at this realm, my realm. If I exist and I accept that the universe is fractal, which it is, then there's consciousness up and there's consciousness down in terms of scale, not literally up and down, but the point is the same, is that there's consciousness at the, planetary, galactic, cosmic level, and there's, consciousness at the cellular and, and particle level and subatomic particle. It's all conscious, because consciousness is just matter's awareness of itself. And so if there is an ether, which there is, regardless of what all the Einstein fanboys will say, there is an ether, and that is the mathematical basis of the universe. All of physical space, all the waves that we know on the electromagnetic spectrum is all just the activation of space, and the space is the ether. And it's not stagnant and without properties. It is fluid, and it is all connected, and that is what enables the flow of Birkeland currents and energy throughout the universe. So basically, it's, man, white motorcycles, man. I hate white motorcycles. You know why? Because they look like police. Anyway, just had a little bit of a heartbeat there. I've already got a ticket for driving in the carpool lane. Yes, this is the hybrid, but I haven't received my stickers yet, so just playing it safe. Anyway, always fun to do the driving videos. But I really just want to stress the point today about this vaccine thing, that it is absolutely a token of faith. It's like the little cardboard tasting wafers that they give at the church, right? It is, except instead of the transubstantiated body of Christ, it will be actual poison and untested, basically, vaccine modalities, right? They're breaking all the rules for this one. They want to have a vaccine within 18 months. They're going to use methods that have not even been tested or proven, right? And again, even the tested and proven, quote unquote, modalities of vaccination are devastating, and they are an absolute crime against humanity, of the level of severe adverse events being affected on people, on children, ruining their immune system for their entire life. Even if they learn to detox later in life, which more and more people are, it's still going to take them years and years to undo the damage that has been done to them by injecting aluminum into their muscular tissue, which gets uptaken by macrophages to the brain. and is the reason that autistic people have so much aluminum in their brain, is because it's being uptaken by the white blood cells from the vaccination. It's absolute fact. You can debate me, challenge me if you like. I still haven't done my review of the Autism by Vaccine, a book by Forrest Moretti. Absolutely amazing book, and it details the development of the DTP vaccine and the vaccine industry concurrent with the rise of autism in the world, right? Autism didn't exist 150 years ago, right? And the word itself just means one who is reserved into themselves, like, you know, basically they're not connected with the outside world. So, and what is very interesting also in the history of autism is that it was traditionally an elite disease. It was the children of doctors and lawyers and, you know, high-powered people in society that were getting autism. And, you know, this is very interesting when analyzing the causes of autism and why it's so obvious that it is vaccines that are causing it. Also belies, you know, why nobody can provide the answer of why can't they just vaccinate for autism, right? If we can make a vaccine for anything, why don't we just vaccinate for autism? They'll never really talk about that because they know that vaccines are causing autism. They've actively hid the data. And that's what in the movie Vaxxed was all about, was basically Dr. William Thompson was blowing the whistle. He was the head of data analysis for the study run by the CDC, an observational study basically that they use to this day to say that the MMR vaccine does not cause autism. And it was an absolute joke. They omitted data, and it's, you know, it's goal-seeked fraudulent science, pseudoscience, as the rest of it is with the climate and the coronavirus thing. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Basically, the coronavirus model, the computer model, the one that, you know, they predicted 2.5 million deaths in the United States alone from coronavirus. So, in the interest of science, they released the code, basically, to the public. Imperial College in London, I believe, was the place where it came out of. The guy who developed the code just recently got in trouble, too, for he had coronavirus. He was breaking quarantine to go and sleep with his mistress. His mistress was also recently married, and yes, he also had COVID-19 and probably got a bunch of people infected. This was the guy who told us we need to lock down our countries and our states because if we don't, millions are going to die. So, moving on. So, obviously, he's a shitbag, right? And he releases, the Imperial College releases this code, you know, so people can, you know, see what it will see under the hood and see how did this number come about. And it turns out to be shit code, right? Imagine that, a shitbag makes a shit code. And basically, not only was it totally, it was, let me suffice, it was stochastic variables, it was random. You could not, even if you put in the exact same inputs on the exact same machine running the simulation, you would get different answers, right? So tell me in your best explanation how that's science, where you have several random variables to the point where you literally cannot control the outcome of the experiment because it's designed to be random. Okay, so these guys are looking to go in and review it. I'll put some links down below. A Google engineer of like 10 plus years is like, this is shit code, guys. There's no way, this is like the opposite of science. You can't just make a computer model with several random variables to the point where we can't even replicate your computer model, let alone like the actual playing out of epidemiological, you know, infection rates and whatnot. It's absolutely absurd that this is what we're locked down for, is because of this bullshit computer model that never had validity. And how did nobody check it before that point? How do these universities get out just putting out this garbage, and the state governments, the federal government, the countries around the world are expected to just take it as an edict? This is what I'm saying. They are the church. This is not science. Science says vaccines are unnecessary and dangerous at best, right? Science says that you cannot just selectively add in, like an add-on to your internet browser, certain, you know, immunities without consequence, especially when you're adding in a whole bunch of things like, you know, aluminum hydroxide and aborted fetal cells. And upon top of that, the pathogens mutate, whether they're microbial or viral. You vaccinate for one, you don't have immunity. You're not guaranteed to have immunity even for a year, let alone for longer than, you know, a few years. The flu vaccine, they acknowledge, doesn't do anything. Another thing that apparently came out recently in Italy they, like, within the last, year or so, I guess, this is what something Space Panther was telling me, so I got to really verify it, but, is that they introduced a new flu vaccine, and they made it mandatory in Italy, and it basically had, like, several different forms of influenza virus inside of it, and they made it mandatory. So when we, analyze the question of why are there some places where the death rate is so much higher, we really have to take into account, what is the medical regime in these places, and especially for elderly people, who are already compromised and have comorbidities and whatnot. To get a respiratory virus right after your immune system has been totally compromised. And a couple videos back, Space Panther called me, and one thing he was telling me on the phone call was that basically in the studies they've done so far, the flu vaccine, just the regular flu vaccine, makes you more susceptible to coronavirus. You are more likely to die of coronavirus if you got the regular flu vaccine. And why would that be, huh? Maybe because your immune system is being compromised at a fundamental level, as I've been saying over and over and over again. And I will continue saying over and over again until people stop calling me a bad parent for not wanting to vaccinate my child and submit them up to the altar of the gods, right? It will not happen. I will lead a rebellion against the government before I submit my children to the education and medical regime of the communist people's regime of California, right? It will not happen. And I hope that more people are really waking up. They're losing the fear, and they're realizing that Bill Gates doesn't have one shred of altruistic energy in his body. Even so, altruism is a bunk philosophy to begin with. You should not sacrifice yourself in line with the synthesis of pagan and Christian values, right? Do not sacrifice yourself to God. Act in full resonance with the God of this universe, right? Be the fractal creator and take on the responsibility of your creator. And that is what not just a human does, but a superhuman, in my opinion. But the point is, again, do not sacrifice yourself. Do not submit to the authorities. They do not know better than you do, regardless of what letters they have after their name. These people are self-interested and fallible, the same as any other man, the same as any other woman, especially Karens. I've been wanting to use that word, that meme. It's such a glorious meme. The Karen, right? It's time for the Karens to really just sit back and stop, all right? You do not get to control every person in this world because your hormones makes you afraid of something, okay? You are, again, there's a beautiful symbiosis between men and women in this universe when everything is in full resonance. But when women try to be men and they try and take on the political realm, they just end up emotional and scared and running basically to the authorities, the false authorities, and asking them to protect them. Right? It is absolutely, this whole structure is just wobbling, and it's the gyrations are getting to a point where the machine is about to blow. And this is what I'm saying. They have forced vaccines on people before, never before like the last few years, right? California, we're already in an advanced stage here, but some of you other states have a potential to really do something about this. And out here, it's not about changing California, it's about the state of Jefferson, baby. It's about secession and using the built-in, stronger than normal home rule powers of the counties here to basically initiate a secession process. And in my opinion, with all the things in play, it's far less far-fetched than certain other things. Certainly less far-fetched than trying to build immunity by injecting poison into your body and into the body of young children. Right? They will mandate it. Regardless of whether or not it has a microchip inside of it or not, this vaccine will be the body of the Antichrist, and it will be the defining action that will separate the wheat from the chaff of the human population. And those who wish to be animals living in slaves with their shots and their chips and their collar, and they can be in their cage, and they will make that choice. And it's past the point where I am going to help them. If people make the effort and escape the cage and come to, sixth world, they come to us, we will help them. But I'm not going to run any special parties into that realm and try and rescue people anymore, because they don't want to be rescued. All right, it's time for us to focus on ourselves and build this empire, this new empire that is coming into being, where people of all good faith can prosper, but not before accepting total responsibility and fractal communion with God. and the objective structure of this universe. I am not a fundamentalist person. I still haven't even read the Bible. I haven't read any religious text all the way through. All I look at is the universe and texts of all kinds, and I read in between the lines, if you will. And call it magic, call it music, call it whatever the hell you want. But I know that I have a gift in this world that I will not forsake. My children have the same gift, and I will teach them to cultivate it as good ginger dad to a ginger daughter can. Because we are a different breed for sure. The pagans. Anyway, much love to you guys. I'll talk to you soon, and see you next time. Cheers.
Ah.